Thank you very much from the Ministry of Education. We at Pearson realise that when our qualifications become approved by a ministry, that it's very important that Pearson and the ministry work hand in hand, because obviously there's expectations from both sides, and we really thank the ministry for being so organised and preparing, especially in relation to local university progression. I will speak about university progression later in my slide deck, but obviously once a new qualification is approved in a country, it's extremely important that as a school, as an educator, as a parent, that you are reassured that if your student or your child was to do this international BTEC level 3, that you know that there's a progression route into going to university if that's the route that they wanted to take. So thank you again for having that reassurance to know that the majority of universities, local universities here, will accept the international BTEC level 3 extended diploma, apart from the two universities that were mentioned today. So to get going then from a Pearson perspective now, obviously introduce myself, so Amanda McQuaid, as you know. Today we very much see today as a milestone moment for Oman. It's very, very exciting. As I said, thank you so much for joining us today. Some of you may recognize me because I used to work with Pearson EdExcel. I've been coming to Oman since 2016. So whilst there's lots of schools that I don't know in here because you might not have worked with Pearson up until now, there are lots of schools that I do recognise, and it's lovely to see familiar faces here as well. So very, very excited to see lots of different faces in the room today. So yes, working with Pearson EdExcel since 2016, and obviously still work very closely in relation to that. But now with BTEC becoming so big across the region, it's really, really expanded. So obviously we're just starting with international BTEC in Oman today, but I'll discuss what's happening in other GCC countries, in other parts of the region, so that you get a better understanding. There's been a real wind of change in the educational landscape over the last couple of years in particular. And I think what we're seeing now is that schools, parents, educators are looking for choice. Obviously in the past, I think a lot of people in this room, not everybody, have been offering academic qualifications such as GCSEs and A-levels, and doing a fantastic job at doing that. But obviously not every student is necessarily suited to the academic pathway. And so we will sort of discuss in more detail why bringing on the international BTEC as a vocational pathway is the flexibility and choice that is needed for your learners. So, as I've pointed out, we do have some existing Pearson schools here today, but a lot of schools who perhaps don't offer any Pearson products at the moment. So actually, we've been around for a very long time. Not me though, not since 1844. Sometimes it feels like it. But essentially, we do have a wealth of experience in relation to educating students. We regard ourselves as the world's lifelong learning company. You can find us in over 195 countries, which is obviously a lot, so all over the world. And I believe at the moment there's over 160,000 BTEC users, which is obviously a very, very large amount. So the good news is you're not the first, it's not the very beginning, it is in Oman, but we're very, very experienced across the world. So Pearson, we regard ourselves to be the global leader in education. At the moment, we have over 1 million students who do our BTEC qualifications, and so that's going to be a mixture internationally, which is what we're talking about today, but obviously back in the UK as well. And as you can see here, we've got some statistics. We're an accredited awarding body, and obviously offering the Pearson EdExcel qualifications, academic qualifications as well, because again, a lot of schools are going to look at doing both of them in tandem as well. So partnerships and sectors are obviously very important to us as well. So we'll be talking about how we work with different governments, obviously ministries of education, colleges, universities, and organizations as well. I think it's really important for you to be reassured about the level of expertise that we have in this field, and that we are very well known. Hopefully you have heard about us. I imagine that you have. But for those, like I said, who don't offer Pearson products, we very much hope that and look forward to working with you in the future. So just looking again, just to show the size of our company, our business is divided into 5 different verticals. So again, some of you will know about the assessment and qualifications that we offer in relation to Pearson EdExcel, but we also have clinical assessments, Pearson VUE, and lots of different school assessments, not just in the Middle East, but in the UK, across in America, lots of different places. We also have virtual learning available as well, higher education with various different products and resources as well, looking at the universities and colleges. We also have English language learning, which I know is obviously very prevalent in this part of the world as well. And then workforce skills, which is where international BTEC falls under as well. That's our vocational qualifications, which is what we will be talking about today. So moving on to international BTEC, and the reason why you've taken time out of your very busy schedules at the end of the school year, as in relation to the end of term before the winter holidays. So what we have found over the last couple of years in the Middle East is that, I've already mentioned, but BTEC has grown considerably across the Middle East. So for example, we have many centres in the UAE. We find that after COVID from about 2020, we find that a lot of schools were told to look at alternative pathways, basically to cater for students who were not necessarily fitted to the academic route. And when we say that, we don't mean that they're not intelligent. We don't mean that they didn't have the capabilities. It was simply that these particular students were not suited to doing an examination at the end. And so therefore, vocational qualifications was the perfect answer, international BTEC, to those types of students. And again, we'll look in that in a more detail shortly. At the moment in the UAE, we have over 80 schools, private schools, offering international BTEC. This number rises on a daily basis. I should know because they all get in contact with me, which is absolutely amazing news. But really, honestly, especially in the last 18 months, we really just see a lot of interest. We also have over 50 private schools in Jordan who offer both a mixture of international BTEC and a customized version of international BTEC, which is called the Jordan BTEC, which I'll talk a little bit about later on as well. For example, we have well over 30 private schools in Qatar. And then, I mean, we have lots and lots of international BTEC centres across the region, but just for you just to get an understanding that you are not alone in thinking about offering international BTEC for the first time, and all of the questions that you need to answer and all of the potential challenges that you might be thinking about in your head. We've heard it, we know, and we also know how to help and support you in relation to that. This will also be in relation to if you decide to bring our qualifications on board, in relation to supporting you in helping your parents to get their head around a potential new qualification as well. This is very, very normal for us, and again, we'll speak about how we will support in relation to that as well. So, what exactly are international BTEC qualifications, and why would you bother to think about offering them in your school? So, basically, the international BTEC, very much what happened with Pearson EdExcel, GCSEs and A-levels. They originated in the UK, and then we decided to make international versions of these qualifications. So basically, one of the main reasons why it is so popular is because of the fact that it is continuous practical assessment without formal assessments. So essentially that means that they will do the course, the students, and at the end of the course there are no exams. And I think I need to make that very clear. Sometimes you will hear about UK versions of BTEC, and some of them do have examinations, but let me be very clear, the international BTEC absolutely does not have exams at the end of it. And as I said, this is one of the reasons why it's so popular, due to its flexibility, level of choice, and the fact that it caters for students that perhaps on the day of doing an examination, on the day of doing an examination, if they were to be doing an exam, you know yourself, some students maybe are having a bad day, they're so anxious, they maybe just don't like sitting an exam, and all of those options are something that sometimes we see that learners who have the potential, but they just don't get the learner outcomes that we would hope that they would manage to get. And so therefore, international BTEC is another option for these students. They are still being assessed. It is just simply a different form of assessment. Do not think international BTEC is an easy option in relation to offering an academic qualification. It is definitely not. It still has very high standards, a high level of rigor. You will look at the specifications. If you're interested in offering international BTEC, you will look at that information and you will see the content and what's expected from a particular cohort of students. And you will make that decision in the same way an educator will make a decision in relation to offering any qualification in your school. The main reason why you might choose to offer this is purely because it's a different form of assessment. We do have expectations in relation to, we expect your students to have a reasonable high level of English in comparison to what we would expect in relation to GCSEs and A-levels. I know I consistently compare to A-levels and GCSEs, even though not everybody might offer them here, but I think it's just good for you to get an understanding because alongside A-levels, BTECs would be the most widely recognised qualification to get into university. So, as I said, BTEC offers an alternative to academic education. We have a lot of schools that offer hybrid situations here. It's going to be the International BTEC Extended Diploma, which is the equivalent of 3 A-levels. That's what the Ministry of Education have agreed for equivalency. And this is done in bite-sized units. You will see that there are mandatory units, and you will see that there are units that you can choose yourself. So that will allow flexibility and different choices in relation to your school and what you want to offer when you look at BTEC. We've given just an idea of the offerings in relation to support, looking at teacher training, digital support, certification and assessment. Again, I will discuss this in more detail later in the presentation. So partnerships and recognition. So again, The Ministry of Education have covered the fact that, again, about the local university piece here in Oman, which, as I stated earlier, is extremely important because, as I mentioned, there's no point having an approved qualification if your student cannot go anywhere in relation to going to university. So that's going to be extremely important. And then obviously we are also going to talk about other partnerships for you to get a better understanding around where we already work with other ministries and governments around the world. So as you can see here, the proven success that we have to date is in relation to, obviously you can see Oman there on the bottom, on the left-hand side. We're also working with Uzbekistan, Maldives, Vietnam, Mongolia, Netherlands, obviously the UK for sure, definitely our biggest market because that's where it originated. So I think you can feel reassured to know there is a lot of knowledge that can be gained from the governments and ministries that have already put this into place. As you can see, the UAE Ministry of Education, they approved the International BTEC Level 3 diploma, and this happened I think it was last April now. And again, off the back of this equivalency that became approved, this has allowed, again, more universities recognising it in the UAE. We're seeing lots of universities being added onto all the time. And again, we've seen a really, really big uptick in relation to schools that want to offer our qualifications due to that equivalency and approval in the UAE. So again, very exciting to see more countries in the GCC offering our international BTEC qualifications. I've already mentioned Qatar. Their private schools have been offering international BTEC for quite a few years now. The same in Bahrain. So again, we will continue to expand into these countries. Looking at proven success then, it's not just about governments. Obviously, we also want to talk about the fact that there are many sort of businesses that we partner with as well in relation to offering our BTEC qualifications. So you probably will recognize some of the companies that are mentioned here, some of the branding. So for example, we partner with the Liverpool Football Club in relation to our international BTEC Level 3 sport. Now, if you're not interested in football at all, it absolutely doesn't make any difference. It's just an endorsement. But at the same time, if you are interested in the likes of sport, there's many, many different pathways. You don't have to be interested in football. You could be looking at management, all the various different areas. But again, you can get a good understanding of all the way that our qualifications are recognised by employers, universities, and ministries of education around the world. So just going back to talking about something that happened in 2023. This is in relation to their public schools, but Pearson partnered with the Ministry of Education in Jordan. And what we did was we basically created a customized version of our international BTEC qualifications. So essentially the Ministry of Education chose some units, and then actually they decided that they would get it taught in Arabic as well. And basically this was over 260 public schools in Jordan that have started to offer this qualification. We have trained over nearly 1,400 teachers. I believe there's nearly 18,000 students who are currently enrolled, and they are offering fields such as business, IT, and hospitality. So this is really, really, really exciting because at the end of the day, this is really aligning with their national curriculum and basically allowing these students to be in a position that perhaps they would not have been in and giving them better opportunities in relation to moving into either university or into the workforce. I know today everybody here is from a private school perspective, but I think I just want to give you that context in relation to how much change is happening in the region in relation to vocational qualifications, and how an entire country has come on board in relation to looking at alternative pathways for their students. So I know that I've mentioned on quite a few occasions in relation to the progression and recognition into the local universities here in Oman, which is extremely important, but obviously as well with international BTEC, it also allows you to go to universities outside of your local country. Our qualifications are accepted worldwide, and we provide a list of universities who accept international BTEC level 3. So whenever at the end you'll be sent through these slides, if you click on this level 3 recognition list, it'll go through to the list of universities internationally that are accepting international BTEC. If, for example, you do not see a particular university on this list, it is not because that means they absolutely don't offer international BTEC. Very much in relation to what you will do right now with your admissions departments within your school, you will do your due diligence and you will check with the universities, because it could be that, for example, there are a couple of faculties in that university and business and information technology have agreed, yes, we're going to accept international BTEC, and we might still be in talks with engineering or art and design or whatever that happens to be. And so therefore, for that reason, they wouldn't have made it onto that list yet. So again, it's not a definitive list. More universities are being added onto this all the time. But again, please do get in touch with the universities in the normal way that you would do to check and see. We do have a progression and recognition team for Pearson in the same way that we have this for Pearson EdExcel. And again, if you have any questions, please do get in touch and I will put you with the relevant people to discuss. So just recapping our international BTEC level 3 qualifications. So we're offering the learners industry knowledge, transferable skills. You always hear this from Pearson. It's very, very important that we embed these skills throughout all of our qualifications. And this just allows them to prepare for future education. As you are aware, our qualifications are delivered in schools, public, private, colleges, training providers. We have lots and lots of different options available. As I've already stated, the International BTEC Level 3 is recognised by many institutions and governments and universities across the world. And the main features that we want you to be aware of is the fact that it's delivered in English. So again, mentioning what I referred to earlier, we expect your students to have a high level of English for them to be able to understand what they're being taught. It is possible, and again, this has not been approved for Oman, but it can be taught in different languages. But to be honest, 9.9 times out of 10, apart from the Jordan example, which has been created specifically for students who are staying in Jordan, it is normally taught in English because the majority of students will progress into university where a lot of the time they're going to be taught in English there as well. So just making sure that you're very aware of that situation as well. So one of the big questions that we get asked is, what exactly can we offer? So the list of subjects, I'm very, very delighted to say, the Ministry of Education has approved a really wide list of subjects. Again, you will get all of these slides and information to pass through, but you have been approved 13 subjects. So as you can see, you have creative media, performing arts, art and design, drama and music, which is under the arts and sports sector. Business management, we have business, hospitality and travel and tourism. Engineering and DigiTech, we have engineering, information technology. digital technologies, and under science we have applied science. So a really, really wide selection available to you as well, which is fantastic news. So talking about program sizes, and again, the Ministry of Education, Nora, obviously alluded to the fact that the extended diploma is the program size that has been approved in Oman. Just to make you aware that International BTEC Level 3 is divided into different program sizes. What does this mean? So I think the easiest way, again, is to compare it to the A-level. It means the level of content that we would expect you to cover to be able to get a certificate, subsidiary diploma, foundation diploma, diploma, or extended diploma. So it's different amount of content. And so, for example, a subsidiary diploma is the equivalent, it's the equivalent content to one A-level. Here in Oman, it has been approved that it will be the extended diploma, which is the equivalent to 3 A-levels. So obviously that is a large amount of content, and so therefore going back to standards and rigor from what is expected around the learning around international BTEC, you know, that is a lot of content. It is absolutely capable to do. And we recommend that this is done within a certain amount of guided learning hours. So with the extended diploma, that's 1,080 guided learning hours. What does that include? That includes the number of hours of teaching time. It's also activity time and assessment included within that as well. We're always asked in relation to how we do timetabling for Pearson. So Pearson don't normally get involved in the timetabling side of things. Reason being is because everyone does things differently, even within one country. So for example, we have the UAE, whereby we have one emirate who has a 4.5-day week. Another emirate has a 4-day week. Someone else has a 5-day week. Even within a country, for example, you might have teaching time condensed into a much smaller amount of time due to holidays, due to various different reasons. So again, we don't have a specific timetable saying this is exactly what we expect you to do, because even within this room, every school has different expectations and different needs and requirements, and you will do something slightly differently. We will put you in touch with people for guidance, and we have a few schools obviously in the room at the moment who offer international BTEC, but in general we will give guidance, but we don't give you timetabling in relation to that because we're catering for the flexibility of offering an international BTEC. Moving on very, very briefly in relation to BTEC assessment. So I'm not going to get into the whole technical aspect of things, but really just to make you aware, again, there's absolutely no exams at the end, because I do get a lot of schools who come up later and they're like, yeah, but are you sure there's not an exam at the end of it? And I know sometimes it can be a little bit confusing because, as I said, in the UK there is an examination route for them. But as I said earlier, absolutely no exams for the international BTEC. So you will have things like Pearson set assignments. In the past, we got the schools to set their own assignments and do that themselves. Pearson have tried, as we've tried to increase our support in relation to resources that are available, we have tried to do a lot of the work for you, which is obviously only good news, because we understand how busy educators are. And this will allow your learners to generate a portfolio of evidence. Again, if you do decide to bring on international BTEC, there will be a lot of additional information, lots of questions, much more detail around how all of that works. And then looking at the delivery and the assessment. So I've already mentioned every BTEC subject will have its own specification, which will outline the expectations around what the learner should know. You're all very, very used to specifications, so very much what you're used to. This will go through the mandatory units, the optional units that you can choose depending on what pathway that you want to go down as well. So these assessments can either be designed by the centre, or as I said, we have created Pearson set assignments as well, which we find majority of schools who start BTEC will start doing that. 25% of your mandatory units, you will have to use the Pearson set assignment anyway. And as I said, this is going to be a portfolio of evidence, which will include internal assessments such as assignments, projects, presentations. Again, this will be absolutely up to you as a school of how you want to do that. And again, that level of flexibility and choice is going to be really, really beneficial to you as well. This will be internally assessed by your teaching staff against the learning outcomes. Again, different to what you might be used to, but at the same, similar in relation to other aspects. And then once this work has been sampled, it will be internally verified so that we can check that the standards that we expect have been met. This is a word you will hear time and time again in relation to international BTEC from a standards point of view. Even though it's internally assessed, we're not watching you, but we're monitoring, helping, supporting, to help and guide you to make sure that you are able to offer our qualification in the way that you hope and get the best learner outcomes available. Pearson will send a standards verifier twice a year. This is part of delivering the qualification. And the standards verifier will come in, basically they come in May, June, at the very end of the year, but they also come after you make your registrations. They will also come in around January, February as well. And they will, as I said, verify that the standards have been met. Providing that there are no compliance issues and everything's gone to plan and the standards verifier is happy with the work that has been presented, you will be able to claim your certificates for any student that has successfully completed our qualifications. So how are they assessed? As I said already, the assignments are produced by the teachers or provided by Pearson. You're going to be using work-related real-life scenarios, which we find that the students it's really well received by the students, particularly in today's modern world. They want things that are up to date, that they can relate to, because it means that they're more likely to be more engaged in relation to the qualification that they're doing. As I said, Pearson will check the assignment setting and the outcome. And the students will get something different in relation to what you're used to at the moment. So right now, whenever you do an academic qualification, you will either get a grade, which is numerical, or potentially a letter. So with the International BTEC, it will be a pass, merit, or distinction. And so basically, at the end of each qualification, the students will get a final grade depending on how well they have done in each unit. So it's all divided into units, bite size, and they will all be added up at the end to get the overall grade. As I've mentioned before, 25% of mandatory units will require learners to take a Pearson set assignment. So quality assurance. So again, we get asked that question, how do we know that we're doing things right? What are Pearson looking from us? Quality assurance is very, very much at the heart of everything that Pearson are offering for the International BTEC Level 3. You will see it is a very stringent process. It's all explained very well. It's all very straightforward. As you know, many, many schools offer this across the region. So it works really, really well as long as we explain it properly to you. But again, always be mindful that we are expecting standards to be met, and we will be checking upon that as well. So each school will require 2 delivery staff per subject. This is all part of the quality assurance. We don't require your delivery staff to have BTEC experience. What we do require, and what I want you to start thinking about today, is that we will require that your teachers will have subject-specific teaching experience. That is very important to us, and we will be checking teacher CVs to see that they have the relevant teaching experience. So if you want to teach business, we want to see that that teacher has taught business. It's evidenced in some way on their CV. Whether you have 5 students in your cohort, or 10, or 15, you will need a minimum of 2 delivery staff, because one will be something called an internal verifier, and the other will be an assessor. In the simplest terms, this basically means that these 2 people are checking each person's work. So sometimes I get a school going, oh, you know what, we only have 3 or 4 students, we really want to start this. And again, we have many, many examples where they start off small, 3, 4, 5. 9 times out of 10 by the following year, that cohort size will increase. The parents become more used to it. The teachers become more used to it. They're happy with how things have gone, and we see additional subjects being added on too. But one thing that does not change is that you will need 2 delivery staff. So have a think about in relation to the subjects that are on offer. So again, business and information technology, for example, they're really popular. Why is that? Because it's usually an easy transition for a school offering BTEC for the first time. Most likely, you probably teach information technology already, or you might teach business already. And so therefore, most likely you have those staff recruited already. You also have the facilities in place. For business, we expect you to have a classroom. We expect you to have a library. The Ministry of Education obviously very much are on board with all of this, and they'll be doing that first set of checks. But I'm mentioning subjects like art and design, applied science, all of those sort of subjects. The majority of you in this room will have the teachers that you need to have on board at the moment. Obviously, there's other subjects like creative media, like engineering, whereby you don't necessarily have creative media teachers on board at the moment. You might not have engineering teachers on board at the moment. You might not have that suite up and running right now. And again, we need you. If you want to offer engineering, you have to have engineering teachers. You have to have a fully functioning engineering lab. This is really important and something to consider. You might want to start with subjects that are going to be easy for you to transition across, and then perhaps invest, because things that you don't have are a bigger investment. We absolutely support and we absolutely hope that there's a wide range of subjects that are being offered in Oman. But I just think this is something you need to think about now. Obviously, it's December. You have plenty of time in relation to putting things in place, in relation to teacher recruitment, facilities. But again, that quality assurance piece is going to be really, really important, because if you don't have the correct teaching staff at that time, it will delay your application until you have that in place. Again, sometimes we've got one teacher, we're recruiting another teacher, and we wait a couple of weeks, they recruit the teacher, and then they offer through the CV. So again, none of this will be a barrier to success. It is literally just me telling you, this is what you need to be mindful of. So again, to become an approved centre, these are the expectations, to make sure that you have the appropriate policies in place. Again, we're happy to say that we have templates available already for all the policies that we need you to have. You might have this already as a school, and that's brilliant if you do. But if not, we have templates where you will literally put on your school logos. You can tweak it. You can write your own policies if you want. We don't mind, but we've done the work for you if necessary. But again, we want to see you've read it, you've thought about it, you're aware of it. Making sure, as I've mentioned already, that you have the appropriate staff for offering BTEC. So again, subject-specific experience is absolutely paramount. That you've got the appropriate equipment for BTEC as well. That you've chosen the correct units and pathways, and that you can produce the assignments and quality assure the new BTEC as well. Again, this is a really, really quick overview. You can receive lots of guidance and support of all of this, but again, making sure all of this is in place. From a resources point of view, we know very well indeed that one of the questions that I get asked the absolute most is, if I bring this new qualification on board in my school, how are you going to support me in preparing my teaching staff to offer this qualification that we've never done before? And this is an extremely valid and important question to Pearson. Because absolutely resources and support go hand in hand with offering a qualification. So I'm very happy to say that we have a mixture of free resources, which again anybody who offers Pearson EdXL will be used to. So you've got delivery plans, schemes of work, authorised assignment briefs, sample Pearson set assignments, so you can get an idea of what our expectations are. And now I'm happy also to say that in the last couple of years, we've started introducing paid-for resources. So again, you're going to see digital textbooks, and we have a lot available at the moment for level 3, and we've got more subjects coming out in 24-25. So practically all the subjects that are approved in Oman will have some type of resource available to you as well. From a teacher training perspective, again, equally as important. Again, yes, your teachers might not have any BTEC experience, so how do we get them where they need to be? And so again, at the beginning of the academic year, it's my job to make sure I am very, very aware of what's required. And so that, for example, this year we had subject-specific training. These were webinars that were offered across the region. We had a how to successfully deliver BTEC workshop. We actually had it in UAE, Qatar, Jordan. We had 2 events there. So there was 4 events over the space of 4 days. And we had 200 teachers attending that over that space of time. It was a very busy period, but honestly, it was absolutely amazing to see all the light bulb moments in relation to teachers getting a good understanding around the requirements. And then there's other things like quality assurance training. I'm organising standardisation training as well. So you're going to see lots of new things coming on board as well. So again, there will be a lot of support available to you as well. So I thought it would be useful to quickly cover how to become a BTEC approved centre, the application process. So basically, once you've decided, you've gone through the specification, you've had discussions with your senior leadership team, you have decided, you know what, this is the right thing for me, we're ready to progress and move forwards. After this is finished, we will give you an opportunity to come back to us and say, yes, we would like to have further discussions. So we will have an initial discussion. So again, everything is very much an overview at the moment. I will have set up meetings with you because I'm sure there's other members of your senior leadership team that obviously want to have detailed information. You will be provided all the information that you need at that point in time, asking questions, making sure that you get on board with all of the relevant information that you need at the start of the application process. Our application is done via a digital application, so we're very modern and up to date. So this is something that's in the last couple of years that we've brought on board for International BTEC. And so therefore, with this process, we'll be asking you to upload CVs, photographs of your facilities, all of that type of information. Once that's been done, you will progress to something called implementation training, which is a 3-day training course, which is done remotely. And this is basically us talking to your delivery staff, your exam officer, whoever wants to attend, essentially, just so you get a better understanding as a starting point around the offering for certification, our systems, registrations, all of those, how that all works. The second part of the application process will be using the same documents that you've already uploaded, and that will be for the qualification approval. And so therefore, for example, if you're doing business or information technology, we go through, a briefer in the UK goes through all that information. We have international people as well that go through that. And then once that's done, you will become an approved centre, and you will receive a certificate and all the relevant approval letters to pass on that information. Once that's been done, we will do onboarding as well with our customer services team, again, meeting with your exam officers or whoever we need to speak to in relation to making sure that you get properly set up. And then there will be ongoing support in relation to the different platforms that we have available, such as Progress, which is a new platform. It's a couple of years old now. But again, it's doing a lot of work for you that you had to do for yourself in the past, in the very digital world that we're working in today. So that's just going over the approval process again. So split into 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2. As I said, CVs of your teachers, please think about that. A minimum of 2 per staff per qualification. You will fill out something called an internal verification policy. It'll be part of the templates. You'll sign some terms and conditions. And if you're a brand new centre, you'll do something called due diligence, which is just something that we do with any new suppliers or people that work with Pearson, but again, all very standard. So the approval process for international centres in 2025, again, we will work through the application form. If there's a certain area that hasn't been completed properly, I'm mentioning this to you now because I just feel like there's areas whereby schools basically don't realise they need to do this, and then it delays their process because they want things done in a certain amount of time. So just make sure that you answer all of the questions. It's all very straightforward. Don't leave anything out. There'll be a multi-factor authenticator app as well, which you'll need to download to be able to access our application form. Pearson's very much about security, and like I said, standards also as well. But just to ensure, because obviously you're putting confidential information to Pearson, so we just want to ensure that this is all kept safely. So again, we'll give you information in relation to that as well. So other things, tips and advice, please make sure that you have a working website, because again, this is something that will be checked. So if it's not working at the moment, please, and you want to proceed with becoming an approved centre, this is key information to becoming a successful, to having a successful application. On the application forms, there will need to be a head of centre, an exam officer, and a quality nominee. They all need to be separate roles. The head of centre can't be the exam officer can't be the quality nominee. And they all need to make sure that they have business email addresses. So we don't accept any Hotmails or Gmails or anything like that, which I know is very, very annoying. But if you do not have business email addresses, please get those domains put into place, because we're unfortunately very strict over all of that stuff now. So again, something to think about. Quality nominee essentially is our main point of contact. It's somebody that you will choose in your school to be the main point of contact from a BTEC perspective. They might be called a BTEC coordinator perhaps, but essentially it's that person that we might get in contact with when we're organising standard verifier visits, organising dates and times, maybe sending through important pieces of information, training calendars, making sure that you have all the relevant information and you're always up to date and you know exactly what's going on, which I think for us to be transparent, it's really important that you have those details. You're also going to be asked to add estimated numbers for year 1, year 2, year 3. I know sitting here right now, nobody knows how many cohort is going to be in your cohort next September if you do decide to start this. We just want rough numbers at the end of the day. Please do add it, because we will need you to add something in there. We will not hold you to anything at all, so don't worry if you put the numbers in and it changes. In the first year, sometimes they go up and sometimes they go down, but it's just for us to have a rough reference, so please make sure you add that information in. Again, going back to staff CVs, this is an area whereby if you send in the wrong thing, it will delay your application. We're not in a massive rush telling you need to all get approved immediately, but again, we do find that schools get to a certain point whereby all of a sudden their senior leadership wants this approval, and maybe the ministry need this information at a certain time as well. And so therefore, making sure you have the correct CVs, making sure they're in English, making sure they're up to date, as in if they work in that school at the moment, that they are still there, that they work there, that they are not talking about their last school was a different school. If you have to recruit some new teaching staff. That's absolutely fine. We expect that at this time of the year. This happens everywhere in the Middle East. It's very, very normal. So again, once you recruit the staff, you will send through a letter from HR, an official letter, just saying this staff has been appointed and they will start in September. So again, if you're thinking about recruiting and they're not there yet, again, it's not going to stop you from progressing if you wish to offer this qualification. As I said already, make sure that you're outlining the academic qualifications. Again, in the simplest terms, what we really just want to see is teaching experience. This is what you're going to get your approval through in the quickest fashion by ensuring that this is what we see on the CVs. It is possible that you could have somebody with industry experience, but we still want to see some teaching experience as well. So please just be very mindful of that as well. So again, just going back to the visual evidence of facility. So 9 times out of 10, we want to see that your resources, your facilities are ready. We want to see photographs that they're ready as well. Obviously, if you're coming towards the end of finishing off your engineering lab, or, you know, for example, you've got a brand new school, we can look at evidence of floor plans and inventory lists. You know, at the end of the day, we're not going to stop you completely from making your application, but we want to see progress. But in general, we want to see that this thing is up and running. And again, you know, you've got a very good period of time between now and September to put these things into place as well. So even though when you take photographs, we will be doing checks when you have your standards verifier visits, we will be obviously, and then also there will be an inspection toward the end of your implementation training on the 3rd day. And all that is literally doing a remote inspection of the facilities that you've sent us photographs of. That's all it is. We just want to see that your school is standing. Okay, so that, just mentioning that the inspection that will take place at the end of the implementation training, and this basically is just covering delivery assessment, grading, internal verification, standards verification, systems, registration, all the things that you will want to hear about. And again, it's a starting point because you will receive lots more training and information on all of this. But so in your head, you can kind of think, okay, I kind of understand what needs to be done next. So again, this is almost like professional development to you as a school and really, really, really helpful. In fact, the majority, even your standards verifier visits, usually after schools make their registrations, which happen at the very beginning of the year, by the way, sorry, the registrations will happen at the beginning, not at the end, which is what you're used to with GCSEs and A-levels. They usually happen around October time, within 60 days of starting to teach the qualification. But usually we have schools going, when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? Because they just want to meet with their standards verifier to essentially make sure, am I doing things in the right way? Particularly when you're doing this for the first time. They just want to have that reassurance, which of course at Pearson are very, very happy to provide that support as well. So definitely don't think that you're in a position whereby we're just checking up on you. Absolutely not. But at the same time, it's going to be really, really beneficial in helping you to progress into teaching our qualifications. The all-important question, which I'm sure you will definitely be asked when you go back to your schools, BTEC costs to consider. So just again, a very quick overview. I will send through, for those that are interested, we have fees lists for this year, which break down all the information. But to become an approved centre, there is a one-off cost of £5,500. This includes your implementation training, and will also include the cost of 2 qualification approvals. So you may decide that, okay, I'm only going to start with business, for example. I know I keep mentioning business like I'm trying to push it, which I'm absolutely not, but it's the easiest one to mention. But at the end of the day, you can just choose one, and that's absolutely fine. But if you think that potentially I want to do 2, it's covered within that price. Later on, any subsequent qualification approvals that you want to offer will be an additional cost. I think it's something like £300. But essentially, that one-off cost is the main outgoing that you'll have to think about. Then, as I mentioned before, your standard verifier visits, there'll be 2 per year. These are normally done remotely. They cost £440 per visit. There is a chance that you will have one face-to-face visit at some point, and that will be £1,823. As I said, the majority, unless there's a standards problem, the majority of visits are done remotely, but please just keep that amount of money to the side, because sometimes we like to come across, the standards verifier will come visit your school, see that you're standing. We just want to see sometimes from a face-to-face perspective, but the majority of the time, business as usual will be remote visits. Registration fees, you'll see the list per program size, so you'll look at International BTEC Level 3, and you will look at the extended diploma amount of money. The price that you see will include certificates. So sometimes you'll see in this booklet there's an additional cost for certificates. There will be no additional cost, so that you know exactly what will be expected from a registrations point of view. As I said earlier, once you made your registrations, this triggers your standards verifier. If you don't make your registrations, we think you're not offering International BTEC. Therefore, you don't have your standard verifier allocation. Therefore, you're not able to progress with getting your qualification assessed in the correct way. Usually we find out about this. Don't worry, there's always ways to get things fixed. There's not a problem. Always tell us if you see something's not where it needs to be, but just making you aware from word go how it works. And so I think I've managed to finish exactly on time, I'm very happy to say. So these are my contact details. As I said, obviously you're going to receive these slides anyway. You'll be given an opportunity whenever you feel ready to make next steps in relation to the next set of discussions. You've got my email address, my phone number, and obviously please do get in touch if you want to ask any questions at the end of the session.